Time to talk about the Ultra Forward experience. The shoe made some people mad. Hey everybody, my name is Chris Tejas. I am an absolutely average runner and a professional shoe fitter at Runner's Choice Waterloo in Ontario, Canada. Recently we decided that we wanted to start putting out some shoe reviews to give you some insight as to what us and our community are thinking about some of the shoes that we have here on the wall. But it wouldn't be a proper shoe review if I didn't get the chance to run in the shoes myself. So I've put about 50 miles onto the Ultra Forward experience, and I want to give you a bit of an idea of how it's been for me. So full disclosure, Ultra did send this shoe over to me. It was part of their seeding program to get shoes on the feet of people that work in the stores. It's a really important thing that brands do because it allows us to actually put some miles into the shoes so we can make better recommendations for our customers. Because of that, I think I'm actually pretty capable of being unbiased about any of the brands that we carry because I want to see the right shoe on people's feet, and we sell more than one brand, so it's not like I'm only going to tell you to buy an Altra or a Hoka or a Saucony or any of the brands we carry. That being said, everyone here knows that I am the Ultra guy. I do love running and walking and living in Ultra shoes, so I will do my best to keep this review as unbiased as possible. Starting with the upper. The upper is an engineered mesh, has very little overlays on it, has a reflective strip on the front, and that's pretty much it. The Ultra logo at the back, a little reflective strip here. That's pretty much all you're getting on this. Very, very simple upper. I would say in terms of breathability, it's kind of medium. It's not gonna be the most breathable shoe, like something like the Kinvara from Saucony, that's like a total mesh see-through kind of situation, but it's not gonna be quite as heavy as something like the Glycerin 21 from Brooks, where I find your feet get pretty warm in that. Great for winter weather, but I'm not sure how that's gonna hold up for the summer. This shoe's kind of smack dab in the middle. You know, I ran in this in pretty cold weather as well as some pretty warm weather, and I never really noticed temperature being a factor for me. Moving on to the midsole. They did something a little bit different with this shoe. This is actually a compression molded EVA foam, different from the Ego Max foam or the Ego Pro foam that you may have tried in some of the other Ultra shoes. It's definitely a little bit more firm underfoot. We do have a 32mm to 28mm stack height, but I do think overall it's just a slightly firmer ride. But I do find it to be really nicely responsive and bouncy. Something about this shoe that you don't see in quite as many Ultras is that kind of rocker feel to it. So it does have a bit of that rocker shape, and that just helps to encourage you to toe off a little bit more. And you don't see that in nearly as many Ultra shoes as you do some of the other brands, so it's a bit unique for them. Also, the midsole does kind of ride up a little bit here, so it actually wraps around the heel and the sides of the heel a little bit. And I think that's kind of a nice touch. Moving on to the outsole, I would say that that's the one area where I'm not 100% on this shoe. I think that the blown rubber on it is good quality in terms of like it's tacky enough. I didn't have any problems with slippage or anything. And keep in mind, I'm running up in Canada where it's been icy and wet. But one thing that I've noticed is just like in some of the areas, like if you look at the sort of lateral side here, I'll show you some footage and you can see that there's just like a lot of wear there. Now that is a normal wear spot for me, certainly because I am a bit of a supinator, but it just seems to me like it's wearing away faster than I would expect it. And I think if they just added a tiny bit more blown rubber, that would be ideal. The other thing I would say is that if you're a bit of a pronator, now you might not gravitate towards this shoe anyways. You might be looking for a shoe that has a little bit more stability built into it. But if you're a pronator that likes to run in neutral shoes, you do have a lot of the midsole exposed in the mid part here, and to me, that's a little bit concerning. I wouldn't say that I've seen pretty much any wear on the back because I'm just not really a heel striker, but I would wonder about that a little bit too. You do have some blown rubber here. I think they could have just, you know, dealt with a little bit of extra weight by adding a little bit more on the inside here too, and maybe that would have helped. I do really like that the blown rubber follows the metatarsals like they do with all of their shoes. I think that's really smart and it provides a lot of flexibility there where you want it. In terms of lockdown, not a ton that I have to say here other than the fact that it's a non-gusseted tongue. I think it overall lays pretty nicely, and I didn't have any problems with it shifting back and forth or anything like that. Moving on to the fit and feel, the most important thing when it comes to a pair of shoes. I would say that this shoe, if you're used to running in an Ultra, it's gonna feel a little bit different. It's a bit more of a narrow toe box. They still have the foot shape to it, but it's just a little bit closer to like a traditional runner. Along with the 4mm drop, what we're seeing in this shoe, as far as I'm concerned, is a really great transition shoe. This is a shoe to take somebody who is used to running in maybe like an 8 or a 10mm offset with a more narrow toe box and get them used to what Ultra is trying to offer. I think this shoe is meant to get people into the Ultra lineup who may otherwise have not jumped into it. The feel when running in the shoe is nice. It's sort of medium firm, certainly not the most firm shoe I've run in, but it's not soft and cushy, especially considering the last shoe I reviewed was the Glycerin from Brooks. That one is just so soft. This one is definitely a little bit more firm. You feel the ground underneath you a little bit more. I find that the compression molded EVA foam is really nice. It's responsive and snappy, and to be honest, I felt myself running a little bit faster in this shoe. I kind of feel like every shoe sort of has its pace, and that might sound strange, but there's certain shoes where I run in it and a 5-minute pace just feels more natural than a 4:50 pace or something like that. This shoe sat at that 4:50 pace for me for a lot of my mileage. Even when I would try and slow things down, I found that because of that rocker style and just the shape and geometry of the shoe, it kept me moving forward a little bit quicker. The longest run I did in this was 24 kilometers. I would say that sort of, it's not pushing the shoe past what it's capable of, but it's right on the edge. To be fair, people were running marathons in basically, street shoes. So you could do any distance in this you want to do, but when we're used to those higher cushion models, I would say you'll notice a little bit more that this shoe is just that slightly firmer ride for you. One thing that did happen was I found a little bit of heel slippage in this shoe, and that's not really super normal for me. I don't get that very often, but I definitely noticed it in this shoe a little bit. You're not sitting super deep into this shoe, and that could be the reason. But it does have these kind of bumpers on the side here, so I was a little perplexed. I really didn't notice any heel slippage after about 20 kilometers or so of running in this shoe. So I think I just needed the midsole to settle a little bit and to get into the shoe. That's not something you have to do with every shoe, but maybe this shoe needs that a little bit more. I'll be curious to see what some other reviewers say. Now, the elephant in the room here is the fact that Altra put out a shoe that's not zero drop. Altra built their name on wide toe boxes and zero drop shoes. That's a tough one, right? Because if you are a fan of the brand because of those ideals, this might feel like they're abandoning something. I would push up against that though, because to me, first and foremost, the most important thing about the Altra brand to me is the toe box shape. The fact that they do follow that more natural toe box shape. Secondly, what I would say is zero drop isn't for everyone. So I can understand why Altra would want to dive into creating shoes that are a little bit more accessible. They didn't go crazy. They didn't put out an 8 mil or a 10 mil or a 12 mil offset shoe. They put out a 4 mil offset shoe. I imagine they'll put out some more too, but I think what this is doing is it's acting as this crossover transitionary shoe to get people into the Altra culture and into the world of Altra so that they can then get more comfortable running in those zero drop shoes. Some people just don't respond to the zero drop thing, and we can say things like we want to encourage them to build the musculature, to get used to it, and they'll get comfortable with it. And there's this whole world in the zero drop idea of you just need to train your feet, and maybe that's true, but having a shoe like this that is a stepping stone to get you there is cool. So if you're somebody that wanted to try out a shoe that was zero drop, but you just weren't quite sure it was gonna work for you, I think this shoe is really for you. So what is this shoe good for? I used it for speed work and I thought it was great. I used it for tempo runs, it worked really, really well. Easy runs, as long as they're sort of mid to lower distance, great. Long runs, I would say half marathon and less, you're gonna feel fine. If I was pushing past the half marathon, I'd probably want a shoe that's a little bit softer, something like the Torin from Altra, if I wanted an alternative that was still in the Altra family. Or if I wanted a similar shoe, maybe something like the Hoka Clifton. Would I do super easy, slow paces or recovery runs in this shoe? I think it's fine for that too, but if you like something that's gonna really baby your feet, this probably isn't the shoe for you. So what are some alternatives to this shoe? Kind of a tough one because you've got a 4 mil drop, but you do have a wider toe box. So nothing's gonna be a total exact comparable, but here's what I would say. If you still wanna stick in that 4 to 6 mil offset, I would say that your best bet would be to go with something like the Kinvara 14, the Hoka Clifton 9, Asics Cumulus, slightly higher drop, but still a great choice, or the On Cloud Stratus. Now this one, it's a little bit higher cushion, but I find that it actually runs kind of similar. A little bit more narrow in the toe box as well, but still a good choice. Now there is a new version of this coming out fairly soon, which is the Ultra Experience Flow. Essentially the same shoe with a different name. I have no idea why they're doing that, but what I can say is that if it builds upon this, or even if it's just this shoe with a new name, I think it's a great choice. This shoe retails for $180 Canadian. Now that is a very standard price for a lot of different shoes. I would say that that is the most common price for our regular everyday runners. So does it fit into the lineup well, and would I recommend this shoe? Absolutely. I think it's a good quality shoe. I think the price point is right, and I think you'll have a lot of fun in this shoe. Something special for my Canadian friends. Now, so often when you're seeing these shoe reviews, you see promo codes or whatever, and you can't use them because you're in Canada, not in the States, and that sucks. So we wanted to do something special. If you go to runnerschoicewaterloo.com and in checkout you put in the word easy run, you're gonna get 10% off anything in the store. But thank you so much, really appreciate you watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and all the stuff that people ask you to do at the end of videos really helps us out, and it's helping us to put together more of these reviews and to do more fun stuff with our channel, because that's what we want to do. We want to just build a community online as strong as the community we have in person at our run shop. So thank you so much. Get out there and run and have fun. Peace.